So a few days ago, I specifically put out a community post specifically going over what you guys would like to see next, whether that would be the current state of war. Talk about how uh, current my wish list for War Thunder Sim. Plus my thoughts on how Sim currently is, or just a channel update. Even though I'm gonna get both videos up, I just wondered, like, I was kind of a little bit of a hard stuck in which one I should get out first, because even though I could just post one or the other, I kind of wanted to go ahead and get both of them done, and so I was kind of like a little stuck, and so I just really just wanted to go over and just see like what you guys had wanted to see. And even though not many people voted, um, majority of the votes went for the first of the two, which is the my wish list and my thoughts on the state of War Thunder Sim. So I just went ahead and just decided to do that. I the fact that and also the fact that I recorded this video like two other different times and just ended up and my footage got corrupted. So yeah, I had to. This is like the third time I have to do this. So yikes. But it's enough lollygagging. So now what are my now I'm just gonna start off straight with just what are my thoughts on the current state of Sim as a whole right now. Honestly, in top tier, I'm just gonna say it's an absolute mess. It's just an absolute mess. It's chaotic. Like, now if you're someone who likes chaotic stuff, it's it's nice, but at the same time, it's really kind of hard to do off meta stuff. Like, because I like to sometimes, because there's something like if you want to do ground pounding, if you don't have like escorts or anything like, if you don't really have many escorts or anything like that, and even still, then you won't really be able to get anything done. Because like if you're in anything that's like let's say, like, as an example, SU 39, SU 20, later late SU 25s, or A10C. Now I understand that these have like their respectable battle ratings, but they're everyone has those moments where they just kind of wanna you know bring them up in the top tier, and like it's having like not having the ability to really use these strike jets. Even though even at their BR that they are at, these strike jets are really kind of limited. Like their potential is really limited, specifically just because of what there is to do. It's honestly boring, because there's really not really anything to do. There is no strategic ground units, no EWRs, no, there's not really many things that these aircraft had the capabilities to do, and they can't really do them, specifically because of how Sim is currently laid out. And basically what I mean by that is, take the F-15E as an example. You have all these air to ground weapons. You have all these JDAMs. You have these these massive GBUs. You have all these. Now, even though yes, you can use them with the current the current ground battles, you really can't do that, specifically because the chaos that is top tier air sim. And it really makes it to where in anything that is above, I think, like anything that's really above the subsonic jet tier, to where it's really easy for jets to hit supersonic. Anything, at that tier and above, you really can't do ground striking. Especially like if you're like me and you play solo, you can't really do ground striking, specifically because of everything how everything is. How if you go up to the proper altitude to drop guided bombs, you're going to get spotted and you may get fired at while your bomb is guiding itself. Or even with the JDAM, if you're trying to drop some JDAMs off, you're kind of you might not be able to get those off specifically because you may have a missile at you by the time you get those missiles off. Now the JDMs are better because if you do get them off, you can just you can just run away. You can just run away really quickly before you even so much as get the chance. You could run away just really quickly, but before, if they do fire on you, before their missile goes active, or you can run away before they even start shooting at you. But with the update coming that involves the Eurofighter their fall, um, Eurofighter their fall, which those jets on the red side are really fast because since the Eurofighter is on Germany and Italy, and France and Italy and Sweden and stuff like that can fight on the red side. That because we already had the grip, that can make it even more difficult at a first glance at a words. That can make it even more difficult to really have the ability to do these ground striking missions. And if you're like me, you're someone, you're probably saying, oh, like, you could go to ground RB, do ground RB stuff. I don't really like ground RB all that much. I don't really like ground sim. I do like ground sim is okay. I have played a lot in the past, but with the captured vehicles and the other stuff work, if you're not in anything that really has if you're not in anything that has that HMD, what you call it, and if you're also like me, someone who really kind of who does I'm just going to be honest, who doesn't really pay attention all that well, at market, it's pretty easy to get. As know you're saying, like, well, you could probably really learn it. And don't forget also, you have the Pantsir up there, so you can't really get close to the battlefield without having to do some stupid tactics and stuff like that. But there's also just that small percentage that just wants to like have like special dedicated objectives as to to do stuff. um and I feel like just that, like, overall, like, sim at the moment, really specifically just because of how everything is laid out, just really does not allow for proper, just to do really anything like that's off meta, like that's off meta really, because you can't really, to the fact that you can't really ground strike, you can't really use off meta jet specifically because of how a lot of these things play out and how a lot of these things go. And it honestly, it gets boring with the fact that just it's becomes the same thing over and over and over and over and over again with not really much of any change. And that's and like I just really just kind of hope that next year they really do implement new things for sim, because if you do know, they like about like two I think it's like around 2 years ago, they gave out a request to specifically, of what us sim players really wanted, of what us sim players wanted, and what we could really, to help improve the quality of life of simulator battles, and that was never answered. So yeah. If you will, like, Nimble, like, if you want to know more, about it, Nimble made a video about it specifically 2 years ago, after they, what you call it, specifically after they put out that post of what we wanted. And you go into more detail of really just kind of the stuff that we didn't get, at least yet. um yeah, like, and so right now I just kind of really hope that they do implement a lot of these things, just to kind of really sort of just to really sort of help give Sinmo that new fresh coat of paint, that quality of life improvement that it really deserves. Because at the moment, it's because it's starting to get a little stale because of how well it's not because of how it like and since we have like all these jets and stuff like that that weren't really made to fight on the maps that we currently have. You know, even though these maps are pretty nice size and stuff like that, for the current top tier jets that we have, which are literally the hot rod, the definition of hot rod jets, um, and with jets like the F-111, with jets like the F-111, F-15E, um, and upcoming Eurofighter, Rafale, you know, all these jets that have these great capabilities to really go these long distances, reach these high speeds, engage at these, you know, and engage these long ranges. It really on these maps, it really kind of starts to really just be a bit of a, you know, it feels way more cluttered. And if you want to just really do something that's off meta, it's way more difficult. It's way more difficult, and it's way more difficult to do, and you really got to and which makes it a little less fun for a lot of people, which is into, in my opinion, kind of leads to the F4F ice situation. And well, not even just the F4F, just the interceptors as a whole, interceptors and like strike jets, bombers. It really just all those things as a whole. It leads to them really just not really having anything to do. You know, there's not really nothing to really pizzazz. You know, there's nothing really different. You know, it's just constantly the same thing over and over again. Here, attack this convoy. Here, oh, there's a ground battle here if you want it. But like I just really, you know, going to the next part, which is my wish list. You know, for what I hope comes to the next season. Um, well, and so one thing that I would really like to see is bigger maps, of course. If we get bigger maps, then that can open up so many different opportunities for different air objectives, different ground objectives, different types of ground targets, different type of air targets. You know, it can open up so many it can open up so many opportunities to add in so many different things to really help give sim that new fresh that fresh life bit of life that it needs. um because on these maps, if we really try and add anything to these current maps, we won't I honestly feel like we won't nothing will really get done, because like I said, at the top tier with how everything moves so fast, and with how everything moves so fast and everything's so fast paced, you know, and everything's really kind of meta focused. You can't really do anything outside of the meta. You're kind of, unless you really sit and try and branch out of the meta, you're really kind of stuck to playing one way and one way only. So I feel like if they add in completely new maps that are bigger, or just make another version of the current sim maps, but just larger than what we currently have, while also keeping in the while keeping in the current ones, to really just for the lower tiers and the jets that are not really that fast, or for the people who just really don't really want to play on these larger maps. It can really, you know, I feel like that it could bring in a perfect balance, not perfect, but you know, just a more balanced, you know, way, instead of just, oh, here we got these, so we're just going to completely remove these maps, you know, just to really sort of help in, just to really sort of help these jets that are not really meant for these up close and personal style of fighting, or closer range style of fighting, you know, and help them, you know, the ones that where they shine more at BVR, they can really take advantage of that and really benefit from the larger maps, and you know, the more room they have to work with. Now, another reason why I feel like longer maps, another thing I hope I see with the introduction of larger maps is longer range SAM systems. Now, in my opinion, longer range SAM systems can help reduce the amount of farmers. Not only it can reduce the amount of farmers. It can reduce the amount of airfield campers. It can reduce the amount of people that are trying to like push up, especially because the airfield camping situation is kind of bad, because especially like if one team start to dominate and a few members on the team start to leave, then they really just have control over the entire map, really. Especially that team has good pilots. The pilots on the other side are if the pilots on the other side are not as good, or if there's not as many good pilots on the, like, let's say like the red side, people are going to leave, which just means that that's going to give either people are going to leave, or that's going to give the blue side just literally the all the advantage that they need just to hold them back at spawn, which will literally do nothing. And this can happen to either sides, because I have seen it on both sides. Trust me, I have. And I've seen it happen with both sides, and me being a victim of being on those both sides, it's not fun, right? It's not fun, especially like it doesn't matter what side you're on. It's not fun, and I see people constantly people speak about, hey, this is what they deserve. They've been doing it to us, blah blah blah. And the amount of people that I understand like that a lot of it's a joke, but the amount of people that I know that like are being dead serious is wild. But I feel like if we introduce those larger maps, it can make it way more difficult to spawn camp, specifically because of the introduction of the longer range SAM systems to allow for it's like if they try and really getting closer than really they should, that SAM will be there to kind of push them back and force them to keep their distance, which can allow the players on the team that's getting spawn camp to really kind of have a chance at pushing up, specifically because they're at the mercy of their SAM cover, and the SAM cover is pushing their enemy defensive, which is giving them really all their opportunities to really push up and create a more even playing field. I really feel like that could really help also with farmers, because especially with these longer range SAM, because the Rollins, let's be honest, they don't do anything, unless, especially, they haven't really been doing much. They've honestly been so lackluster. It's wild. But the Rollins, they can get stuff done, but honestly, at this current point in time, it's really sort of hit or miss with the Rollins. You kind of have to be going kind of slow, and if you're maneuvering and you're going fast, you can get out of the way of the Rollins with ease. But if they introduce these longer range SAM systems, maybe like the Patriot and the S400, those could really help, keep the enemy away from the airfield, but at the same time, keep the enemy away from the airfield, but at the same time, give the side that's currently being held back or being spawn camped, that can give them the opportunity to push up as well. Another thing I would like to see is maps with more mountains, especially like in the middle, like very similar to how DCS does their Caucasus Mountains map. How just in the middle you just have this big row of mountains, and that people can hide in, stuff like that. Especially like if you're like an attacker, you can just stay low, hide in between the mountains, and you can really stay, or you could be a fighter going between the mountains, especially like if you are doing multi-role, or if you're not the most maneuverable of fighters who can't really, if you want to do sneak attacks and stuff like that, you have the mountains to your advantage, and I feel like this could really help those strike jets at these higher BRs to really sort of hide to get the ability to really hit these ground units, because since these jets are a lot of these strike jets are slow, they kind of have to do a lot of crawling, especially with ordnance and stuff like that, and they're literally not in the availability to dogfight or anything. That the mountains and or some form of terrain could really help to really help them, um sort of get to their objectives faster. um I would also like to see different, more ground objectives. I would like to see strategic I like to see the strategic possibly the strategic bases get an upgrade, to where it'll have parts, to where it'll have missile systems, missile systems defending it, to have missile systems defending it, or special objectives, like, hey, destroy the SAM site at this grid square, or destroy these anti-air destroy these anti-air units, hit this bunker, all these, I feel like if they add in these different objectives, they could really, not only would that like appeal to more of the players, but I also feel like it could open up windows for way more ground object, way more weapons. I mean, sorry, way more weapons. It could open up windows for weapons, different types of bombs, different types of air to ground missiles, and and it can make a lot of jets that are dead on a run, that are kind of hard to make work in current air sim, that can give them the ability to really have the ability and shine the in that like those longer range maps with those different objectives. You know, another thing I would really like to see is different air objectives. Like, I would love to see like special different air objectives for coming up with um like, if you like with the uh covered bombers, like if you are in a fighter and you stay within a specific vicinity of the bombers, you'll get a little RP bonus for actively pushing out and helping with uh controlling the airspace, or completing objectives, help introduce more teamwork and stuff like that. And I just feel like that as a whole, that could really bring in new players to really, especially if they aren't especially if you're not spaded with stock grind, you'll get a special little bonus for, you get RP for actually staying in the vicinity, for participating in the mission. You'll get uh the bonus, like I said, if you get the little bonus for being a fighter, to help escort the bombers, and sort of like really just kind of help with some, like, help promoting objectives, like, for the ground objectives and stuff like that. So if you're in a strike jet and you complete this ground objective, you'll get the bonus for participating. And if you're a fighter and you help, and you're in the vicinity, or if you're in the AO of the where the mission takes place, you'll get like a little bit for actively, for helping keep the strike jet safe, stuff like that. Same with, interceptors. It could be if you're going up and destroying bombers, you'll get a bonus, or attackers, surveillance aircraft, whether it may be player controlled bombers, you know or AI, just get like some form of bonus for taking them out, especially like if it's a strike jet and they're going to your objective, you'll get a bonus for defending your objective. And like if you are in a jet that's like a multi-role jet, like the F-15E or F-16C, you'll get like you'll still get the have it to where you'll still get the bonus, but have it to where it will be less than of the jet of the specific role. Since your jet can really do everything, you don't have to sit and wait for an air objective to come up or only a ground objective. If an air objective comes up, you can go up and get that, and if you have air ground ordnance, you can, once you finish the air objective, you can instantly go down and get the ground objective. So I feel like for multi-role jets, you should have the ability. You can still get the bonuses, but have it to where it's sort of have it to where the bonuses are sort of less, since you can kind of do since you have the ability to do everything, and so that it can help promote different, promote the usage of different jets. Everyone kind of branch out, and everyone can really do their own thing and not really have to worry about just spams of the same type of jet, or have to worry about spams of the same type of jet, or just not really any difference in playstyle, since I feel like these jets could push like different play styles. It could push different different things to happen. So like there's always something to do. You're just not engaging players 24/7. And I also feel like this could help greatly with the stock grind, because with how you don't have air to air. You only have like 4 missiles for a lot of jets. You only have 4 missiles to begin with. I feel like these little bonuses could help with the stock grind, or these extra objectives could help with the stock grind, or help to really help give players an easier time with the grind, which would not only make it less frustrating, but it could also keep them playing for longer. Since they're being benefited in almost every way, even if they're not doing well against players. So I feel like if they did that, added like these little bonuses for these different objectives and different jets, I feel like that could really help branch out. That could help branch out the player base and really help with just the grind as a whole. In really, like, especially like for those players that are not as good, that aren't as good to really do PvE, or that are kind of just getting into sim and they want to take it easy. This could really help open up a door for those players to really sort of help them get eased into sim, and they're not just thrown in with like how it is now. If they get in top tier, they get pushed to one side, they're not going to have a good time. So I feel like if that's in, not only will they benefit from completing the objectives, but they'll also have an easier time, since they have longer range SAMs and more objectives to do, and bonuses for said objectives, to really sort of help them just learn their way around sim slow and steady, until they're really and they can just work their way up into engaging players and stuff like that. And this next one is kind of gonna be a little bit of a hot take, but remove multipathing. I feel like if we do get these bigger maps, and we do get these more objective, and these long range SAM systems really further helps reduce spawn camping, I feel like that multipathing would have to be removed, specifically for and the reason I'm saying it should be removed is because primarily for the jets that lack dogfighting performance, because jets like the Tornado F3, F4F Ice, just like Tornado F3, F4F Ice, F4EJ Kai, these jets struggle because they don't have really the full ability to they don't have the true dogfighting performance that like jets like the F-15, F-16, Gripen, Mirage 2000, They don't really have the capability that these jets have when it comes to dogfighting. But in BVR capability, they're almost unmatched. But the problem is that with multipathing, even with the reduced multipathing and how even with the reduced multipathing, a lot of the maps that people currently play on in top tier are flat unless it's maps like Spain, unless maps like Spain and Vietnam, and like sort of like some parts of Afghanistan. But for like a majority of the maps, including Afghanistan, where especially like in the middle part and Sinai, Denmark, these maps are pretty much all flat, and pretty much the multipathing can be abused, and the multipathing can still be used pretty easily. But if it's so like that's why I say like if we do when we do get the bigger maps, have it to where on the bigger maps the multipathing is removed, specifically because of how we could have since we had the longer range SAM systems and bigger maps to really help prevent spawn camping. Uh, Multipathing would be would help also with the team that's being really held back, because if they're trying to hide down low or they're trying to hide in the mountains, these this can the reduction in multipath to make it the removal of multipathing will help it to where they can well, they will either have to go cold or try and notch, um and majority go cold, especially like if you're pretty sketchy with the notches, because I kind of suck at notching, so I sometimes just go defensive. As a whole, I just go cold sometimes. So if you're not really good at notching, you can really just go cold, the thus giving the enemy team a higher chance of being able to push, giving the enemy team a higher chance to really push themselves out of spawn and get back to an even playing field. And this could also help really give these jets that lack the maneuverability, that lack the close range dogfighting capability. It could give these jets sort of a chance, since they don't really have to worry too much about getting super duper close, unless like let's say like the mountain, like I said with the mountains, including the mountains, unless they somewhere hide behind the mountains or get under your radar to where you can to where you won't see them, and they can get close to you. Just to make it more difficult for these jets to make it more difficult for these jets to get countered so quickly, so that these jets can have a way better chance, which could then allow these jets to really get the love that they deserve, since they're literally not being gimped by the multipathing system, and really just kind of help give them a better chance, just an overall chance, and really show their capabilities that they are capable of, um, without being held back by their lack of dogfighting performance. Because in today's current meta of just of abusing multipathing, even with how it's reduced, uh, it's it's still pretty. If you know what you're doing, it's kind of still easy to do, and it can really make it difficult to get BVR shots and stuff like that. Especially like if you're on a map like Sinai, which is just nothing but flat, which is nothing but flat sands, and excuse me, and really easy to just sit up and multipath if you know what you're doing. Um, so that's really honestly it, because I probably do have few more things, but I'm honestly just really tired. But that's kind of it. Like, just really sort of my ideas and what I really just kind of hope for the for the future of sim, and those are just really my thoughts that of what could just possibly help uh to sort of help kind of bring in many different, not only to really kind of help grow the mode, but to also help with the mode as a whole, to make it more fun, enjoyable, and to make it more fun and enjoyable for both sides involved. The ones with the less capable aircraft and the ones with even the more capable aircraft. For strike jets, for bombers, all that stuff. To really just sort of bring in more stuff, just to sort of um uh brain just to really sort of help bring in that fresh quality of life that sim needs, so that more people could possibly either people who previously left can come back to sim, or people who haven't even played sim can come back and really just give it a try, you know so that the sim mode can really help grow and really just become a more fresh and flushed out game mode like it once was. But yeah, I'm gonna stop talking and just let this video, just let this gameplay just finish playing out. But anyways, thanks for watching. I'm going to do a channel update very soon. Uh, but until then, I will see you all later. Bye bye.